These are the fertile lands of the Shenandoah Valley, and at the northern end sits the town of Winchester, Virginia. The apple capital of the world has long been a prominent presence in monster truck competition, and no other name has brought the thunder to the valley like the Performance Motorsports Monster Truck Summer Nationals. Coming up, the big boys rock the north of the South. Welcome to a track steeped in a tradition as old as the monsters themselves. For 4 decades plus, the monster trucks have been here at the Frederick County Fairgrounds in Winchester, Virginia, and now we bring you the 2022 edition of the Performance Motorsports Monster Truck Summer Nationals, being put on every year by that man right there, Dale Wilson, Performance Motorsports CEO and the former owner and driver of the world-famous Virginia Giant, now under the ownership and being piloted by Cliff Fowle of Fairfax, Virginia. But that truck is here tonight, and he's going to do battle with 4 other machines from very close to home, including that truck right there, Brandon Darrow out of Elkton, Virginia, and Bad News Travels Fast, and also representing the Old Dominion, Tim B. and Killer B, another Ford machine in the field tonight. We also have Samson, and you saw Toxic pulling off the track. First up will be our wheelie competition. It'll be Tim B. out of Leesburg, Virginia, in the Ford Raptor with the J&B chassis. Killer B setting the pace. Nice sky wheelie to start things off. A strong opening statement for the gentleman out of Loudoun County, Virginia, doing a nice job with that machine right there. The J&B chassis standing it up straight. Again, you get one hit. If you didn't see our coverage last year, it's one hit. You got to take your best shot and hope it's good enough to stay on top. Up next, the hometown machine being driven, now owned by the man out of Fairfax, Virginia. This is Cliff Fowle in the Hemi-powered Virginia Giant. 1,600 horsepower going to work. Probably not going to take over the lead, but plenty of power to get him around the track. That big sassy racing 540 Hemi in the back, getting him up and over the cars. Cliff Fowle going after Tim B, but it looks like Tim will remain in the lead for the moment. Up next, a legacy machine out of Circleville, Ohio, that's made many appearances here over the past 30 years. Dan Patrick Sampson, driven by Rick Steffens. The bicep-clad Chevrolet not going to take the lead with that move, but again, the Hemi horsepower going to work. Had some nice hang time there, but the truck almost handles so well, it just leapt up and over the cars. Now, another Patrick chassis machine. There's 4 of them here, and then one J&B. This is Toxic. Preston Perez at the wheel out of Frederick, Maryland, by way of Spokane, Washington, driving for the Snyder family. Getting wild, almost put that truck over as he gets it stopped just before making contact with the back of the race lane. Watch this launch as he lands on the left rear, turns the rear tires, shoots him to the left. A good job of driving to keep that truck upright. Preston Perez has to have taken over with that as we go on board with him. Barely worked the steering wheel, really calm at the wheel of that truck, and that's how you have to do this to make moves like that work for you. Yes, just taken over the lead with 1 truck to go, and it's Brandon Darrow out of Elkton, Virginia, in the Sign Pro sponsored Bad News Travels Fast. Nice big sky wheelie to close out the competition. It was a solid move, but was it enough to take over the number 1 spot? A lot of smoke out of that truck. He may have a head gasket going away in that big 540 power plant, but it does not look like it's going to be enough for him to get the lead. It was a good move, but that man right there, Preston Perez, with this wild sideways landing, will be your wheelie competition champion. So starting things off strong is Toxic Preston Perez. We will have racing coming up in just a moment, an extended bracket, and we will explain it to you when we come back, as well as freestyle. No scores in freestyle tonight. It's all for the fans. Stay with us. More to come from Winchester.
This Back Channel Productions program is brought to you in part by Monsters Monthly. For up-to-date info, media, and all your other Monster Truck needs, visit monstersmonthly.com. And by RPM Army. For a wide array of content from across the motorsports world, visit rpmarmy.com. Your high-performance fix on the go. This Back Channel Productions program is brought to you in part by Crush This. For a look inside the world of monster trucks, check out Crush This, Monster Truck Podcast.
A packed house on hand as we get ready to go side-by-side straight line racing here at the Frederick County Fairgrounds in Winchester, Virginia, with a very interesting racing bracket. We're going to call it a survival bracket. I'm going to try to explain how it works, but you'll see by the end of it, Virginia Giant will match up with Tim B in Killer B. Then it'll be Toxic against Bad News Travels Fast. The winners will meet up at the top of the next bracket. The two losers will match up in the center of the next bracket, and the loser of the losers race will match up Samson, who has a bye run here in round one in a last chance effort to stay in the field. Again, if you don't understand it, you'll have a couple of opportunities to see how it works. First up will be Tim B in Killer B out of Leesburg, Virginia. The truck, we said it's the Ford Raptor with the J&B chassis underneath. Beautiful machine. Going up against Deal Wilson's Virginia Giant, now owned by Cliff Fowl. I guess we'll call it Cliff Fowl's Virginia Giant out of Fairfax. He's been upside down at this track before, and this truck was completely rebuilt from the cage back by Kevin Rico, who's the crew chief normally on Toxic. After a rough season this year for Cliff, let's see what these guys have for each other in this first pairing of round one. Pick your favorite. This should be close. Killer B with a 5-second flat ET to Virginia Giant at a 5:01. I told you it was going to be close. Tim B with the jump off the start. Just a little bit too much hang time over that first jump for Cliff Fowl, but he put the big Hemi to work. I think if the finish line had been another 10 feet forward, he would have gotten the win. As you can see, he did launch past Tim coming home. But a solid run for both of those trucks. Remember, Cliff is not out of the bracket yet. One more look at it gives you a good idea of the hang time there for Val. And even with about a half a truck length deficit in no man's land, he came back and made it a 1/100th of a second margin of victory for Tim B. Now, here comes Preston Perez out of Spokane, Washington, originally now out of Frederick, Maryland, driving for the Bethesda, Maryland-based Warp Motorsports team of Jay and Corey Snyder. Normally you see Corey Snyder in Toxic 2.0, and Corey made this Patrick chassis Toxic work for quite some time. He's had some very memorable rides in it. Going to go side by side with a very evenly matched Brandon Darrow in Bad News Travels Fast. Pair of 540 cubic inch racing engines on the line, but one representing Ford, the other representing Chevrolet. One out of Maryland and one out of Virginia. Preston eyeballs the green light, waiting for the start. Perez with a hard charge and some good driving by both of those guys down at the end. A 479 for Toxic. Fastest so far in the bracket. Another look at this run, and you can see a massive jump off the starting line for the big black and green Ford from Maryland, knocking out the home state Chevrolet. Almost a 2-truck length lead on a course this short. Pretty incredible. I'd have to say Brandon was sleeping at the line because he usually doesn't get beaten by that much. And again, he's not out of the bracket yet. He will come back to face Cliff Val as we watch this run one more time from on board with Preston. You can see his opponent out the driver's side window. You can tell that truck is working well tonight. He's not getting beaten around in there too much as our final competitor makes his bye run. Now here's how this will work. Samson will automatically seat with no loss here, but by virtue of running this bye run, he only has one shot to stay in the bracket as he will match up against whoever loses the matchup of the two losers coming into the next bracket. So we're going to show you the bracket again here in just a second and explain to you how this works. Now we'll be able to see how these trucks seated into the second part of this double elimination round. There you see it. Killer B and Toxic both had wins in round one. Killer B defeated Giant. Toxic defeated Bad News. So Killer B and Toxic will match up. And Virginia Giant will take on Bad News Travels Fast. They both lost in round one. The loser of the losing pair there between Virginia Giant and Bad News will then have 2 losses. The last chance for that truck to stay in the bracket, they have to try to take out Samson. That will take us to our final 4. However this bracket works out will take us into our final 4. So we're kind of learning along with you, but a lot of racing to get through in spite of having was a fairly small field, but a good field of trucks, keeping things moving here in Winchester, Virginia now. Pair of Patrick chassis on the line again. We have 4 of them, as I said. Bad News Travels Fast and Cliff Fowl in Virginia Giant. Brandon Darrow staging up. We will see who will get the double loss, who will have to take on Rick Steffens in this round at the bottom of the bracket. Steffens waiting to see who his opponent will be. Will it be the Ford Hemi-powered machine or the Chevy with the 540 cubic inch Chevy power plant? Darrow caught Cliff sleeping on the line. A 495 for Bad News Travels Fast. A solid run for the big Chevrolet. So it will be Cliff Fowl going on to take on Rick Steffens and Samson as he has to make the extra run to now try to stay in the bracket by virtue of Steffens drawing that bye run spot. So Darrow will go back into the pit area. He has made it into the semifinal round. Killer B now on the line. He's going to take on Preston Perez in Toxic. Pair of Fords going at it right here. You saw Darrow got a better launch that time, a much better starting line launch than he did in the first round. Keep in mind, though, so far, all of our wins have come out of the right-hand lane. Perez, who won against Darrow, now moves over to the left-hand lane. Tim B in the same lane he took his win out of. Who's it gonna be here in the second half of this bracket? Great start for both trucks, a 473 to a 491. Advantage Preston Perez, and a pretty even start it looked like. Again, though, I have to say the advantage might be on the right-hand side of the track. Even though Perez got the win, there was a difference in the launch over the first jump. So Tim B put it back in the pit area. There you see Corey Snyder. Normally drives the Toxic 2.0 machine. I'd say he's taking the day off, and not too far from home, about an hour and a half from their home shop there in Bethesda. He and Preston both hail out of Frederick, Maryland, and he's crewing tonight on the truck that he has made so popular over the last few years. Preston doing a nice job upkeeping this name for the Snyder family and Warped Motorsports. There you see Barry talking to Deal Wilson. Barry, the crew chief on Cliff Vowell's Virginia Giant. As we find out what's going to happen next, we should have a matchup coming to the line between Rick Steffen Samson and Cliff Vowell and Virginia Giant that will decide which one of those trucks goes to the semifinal round. But giving those guys a chance to cool down. Apparently there's some work going on in the engine compartment of Samson before he rolls to the line. I'm not sure what the problem is there, but this should be a good matchup. Both of these PEI chassis, this is the newest generation Patrick chassis. He's going to go up against a Patrick that I believe is about 2 or 3 generations older than the Virginia Giant, but this one has had a ton of work done to the back half of it and the cage after a rough go here in the spring of 2022. Now, coming through the summer, as I said, the back half of that truck was completely rebuilt in about 2 weeks. To get it back out here on the track, it was built up in Hazleton, Pennsylvania in Kevin Rico's shop after Cliff all but snapped it in half. Let's see, Vowell or Steffens. Cliff hanging on to it at a 4:09. Look at those times. Cliff Vowell, it may not have looked fast, but they both caught a perfect light. So Virginia Giant will go to the semifinals, and it looks like Steffens is headed for the trailer. More to come. Stay with us. Summertime in the Shenandoah Valley, Winchester, Virginia, the Frederick County Fairgrounds, Performance Motorsports, Monster Truck Summer Nationals on hand here tonight. A tradition-rich event that's been going on for, since about 1989. And you can see the bracket that we have here tonight. A competitive group of trucks now in the semifinal round. Killer B with a rematch with Toxic. We'll see if they swap lanes and if there's any difference in the runs they lay down. It'll be Bad News Travels Fast taking on Virginia Giant. So now we are back to a normal elimination bracket. If you lose, you go on the trailer. If you win, you go to the finals. As we get ready on the line. This is another rematch in this round between Giant and Bad News Travels Fast. Let's see if Vowell can hang in there. A pair of Old Dominion favorites right here. Brandon Darrow garnering a lot of support since he got into this industry back in 2012, and he's made good on the purchase of this truck. He and his father, Pops, doing a nice job with the family on the road, going side by side with a legacy machine of the Virginia Giant, now owned and driven by Cliff Vowell. The 540 Hemi against the 540 Chevrolet. Ready to go here in the semis. That was a beautiful run for Bad News Travels Fast, a 481 to a 581, and Val was way off the pace after setting the fast time in the previous round. And again, the reason that their times in that previous round between Giant and Samson were so fast is they both caught a perfect light. In this case, we're kind of back to a standard reaction time, and you can see how much that reaction time can change, how quickly these guys are able to get to the finish line. But Darrow clearly had a cleaner start. Val moving around in that right-hand lane. Now, it seems like the right-hand lane has been the advantageous place to be all night, but Val was sleeping on the line right there as Preston Perez, who's been catching great lights all night, rolls out in Toxic. Rematch with Tim B in Killer B. Maryland and Virginia going at it right here. Tim and Preston both with a history of working with the Vauders Motorsports Camp out of Hagerstown, Maryland. So all in the family here in one way or another. But Preston, one of many rides he's had in his short but storied career in monster trucks. Let's see what he can do here against Tim. What a launch for the black and green Ford. Look at that, a 328. Again, perfect light. Changes everything in a race, and man, he came off the line hard. That truck accelerates so quickly, and this is a pulling track, so there's plenty of bite to be had. That thing hooked up and went. Preston Perez now heading into the championship race. There you see Corey Snyder getting him set for what should be an awesome final round matchup with Brandon Darrow. One more look at it, and Perez coming to the center again, but a much straighter ride than he had out of that right-hand lane, and I think the lane advantage might be going away. I'm not sure what changed, but it was on the starting line. It looks like this lane that Preston's in now, the left lane, has come around. So we're going to get set up now for our championship race. There you see Perez rolling out to the starting line. He's going to move back to the right-hand side of the track. He likes it better over there. We will see what he has in this final round with a home state hero matching up with him right here in the big Chevy Silverado out of Elton, Virginia. Bad News Travels Fast, sponsored by Sign Pro. Beautiful, beautiful scheme for this year. The colors picked by Pop. New blue body they've got on that thing. It's had many different color schemes over the years. This might be by far a crowd favorite. It goes side by side with the iconic looking Toxic. Pair of Patrick chassis, pair of 540s in the championship round. Thumbs up, we're ready to go. All Bad News. Perez hard on the brake. Almost gets into the side of Brandon Darrow, and Bad News Travels Fast. And look at those times, a 402 to a 404. And you got to tip your hat to the man out of Maryland. I'd say 404 is a good time for getting caught sleeping on the line. That means he had his foot to the floor. As we're going to go on board and watch this run from inside the cab of Toxic. Very quickly countered the sudden pitch over that truck, man. That could have ended a couple of different ways, but spectacular way to go out of competition. You see, just caught the edge of that ramp, almost DQ'd, but the worst was avoided right there as we watch it one more time from the end zone. A wild finish, keeping the fans on their feet here on this beautiful summer evening in Winchester. Your racing winner, Brandon Darrow, in Bad News Travels Fast. So the home state hero takes the final win of the night. Up next, freestyle coming at you.
Hey, welcome to Wild Man Adventures. For the Silver Lake Sand Dragway. There really wasn't any off-roading back then. It was all off-road. We're on our way to Lima, Ohio. Got wooden wheels.
Oh, it's slippery as all get out.
Hey, we're here with Rich Cummins. Hey, we're here with Mike Potter.
Hey, we're here with Alan Pizzo.
Gotta check it out. This week we're gonna go down memory lane.
The fans are on their feet from Monster Truck Freestyle. We are about to get underway. You can see the lane light on and Killer B, Tim B, gonna start things off. No scores. This is all for the fans. Don't think these guys aren't gonna go for a little bit of bragging rights. Nicely done, Tim B opening things up. Dirt on our end zone camera. He's not going too over the top, but he is not taking a long time to go from obstacle to obstacle, and that's definitely going to make him a fan favorite. Again, this is just for the fans. There's going to be no winners tonight in freestyle, but the crowd here in Winchester. But again, you know these guys are going to be trying to outdo each other. At least a couple of them. Tim B getting things started off on a high note, jumping over the van stack, the centerpiece here on this old pulling track, the Shenandoah Valley, as Virginia Giant gets ready. Cliff Fowl headed out to put the big heavy horsepower to the dirt. Cliff getting some nice sky wheelies as he works his way around this red clay track. We'll see what he's got. Again, everybody trying to raise the bar just a little bit on the last guy. Big hit again off the race lane. Cliff Val working a big heavy horsepower Virginia Giant here in front of the crowd in Winchester, headed for the van. not sure what transpired down there, maybe tightening the belts up or maybe had a steering problem momentarily, but still laying down a good run in front of a packed house. That big sassy racing horsepower in the back of the Patrick chassis Virginia Giant. Trying to make sure they don't forget him. Third hit on the centerpiece. Cliff gonna wrap up a nice run in Virginia Giant. Again, 3 hits on that van stack. Getting that nose nice and high, and that thing is built like a tank now after all the work Kevin Rico did to it. The rain is coming down hard, as you can see. And we've still got 3 trucks left to go. We'll see if the track deteriorates. We know this place can get very slick. It doesn't tend to get real muddy. It gets almost like slate on top, and Rick Steffens doesn't waste any time going for the center stack. Rick Steffens makes this look so effortless. They debuted this truck in the spring of 2021, and it's just better and better every time we see it. You can see how smooth it lands. And he's going to wrap up a solid run in Samson. Again, came out, went right for the center stack, getting him started off, and one bounce and then it sticks. Really well-designed machine for Steffens and Patrick. They both had a hand in the geometry on this newer version of the Patrick chassis. Again, they debuted in the spring of last year. Now, a couple generations back in the Patrick Enterprises chassis lineage, here comes Toxic. See the rain on the windshield. It's still coming down out here as Perez goes right for the centerpiece. He's got a problem. They shut him down. I don't know if you could see it on the camera, but he had fuel dumping out of the back of that thing. I don't know if he blew a line off or what, but Perez sitting there inside of that truck probably doesn't realize what's going on, as the crew, Michael Murray, who's helping out the Toxic crew this weekend, who we've seen drive tough trucks here in the past. There you see him in the orange shirt running over. There he is, arms up. Murray found the fuel cap. That's what it was. So the fuel cap came off. Kind of just a freak incident there. They did put the cap back on, I'm sure, but maybe he forgot to tighten it, but I doubt it. They were going through this truck, tightening and nutting and bolting everything back down before they went. There you see Corey Snyder giving Preston the thumbs up. They're going to let him go again. That was an interesting way to bring a solid, momentous freestyle to a stop. Preston probably a little bit irritated right now that they brought his momentum down, and he's backing it up. He's going to give it a shot at the center of the track. Going big to get the momentum back up in the run. Big hit going the other way on the van, standing up on two wheels. Preston Perez working this track to perfection. Going big on those race lanes. He works his way around. Oh, he's got a problem again. Fuel dumping out of the rear for the second time. So they shut him down. He's going to go ahead, pop the belts and the wheel off, and salute this crowd here in Winchester, Virginia, as we got people jumping in the seats right now. What a run by Toxic. You got to tip your hat to Perez bouncing back from that. Again, look at this hit. Going the other way, over the van stack, getting it nice and high, almost vertical right there, bringing it back down. The truck handles so well. Now, watch this. This is the first time that cap came off. You can see the fuel start dumping out. The cap's still in there, but watch. It's actually going to tumble out the back. There it goes. Right there behind the right rear tire is the fuel cap. And then here was the second time as he made the corner. See it spit it out right there. So I have to believe they did tighten it because they climbed back up there and put it back on. So something went wrong with that fuel cap. That was a defective fuel cap. They're going to have to get that fixed immediately. But that team is, I guarantee you, they're going to have it fixed the next time we see them. Now, home state hero Brandon Darrell closing things out in a smoking freestyle with Bad News Travels Fast. If Chevrolet ever decides they're going to put some corporate money back into this industry, they need to pass a few bucks along to this team right here and give them some representation because they represent Chevy very well. taking it down the flyaway side of that van stack. What a run Darrow has gone. A solid freestyle. This is a chassis that's been out and running in various forms, but under the same name since 2003, the end of 2003, and it hasn't missed a beat. They've made the various improvements needed to keep it competitive. It's still one of the top running independent trucks in the country, and almost always one of the most beautiful at any track it goes to. And as I said, nobody represents the big bow tie like these guys out of Elkton, Virginia. Also their sponsor, Sign Pro, out of Harrisonburg. A wave from Brandon Darrow as he closes out a good old-fashioned Winchester Classic, as that will conclude the 2022 edition of the Performance Motorsports Monster Truck Summer Nationals. And what a night of action it was. Always strong performances when we come in here to Winchester, as they demolished some iron here this weekend, and some plastic, as you tend to find in these newer cars. You see some airbags sticking out the windows there. It's been an awesome weekend of action here in the Shenandoah Valley. Thanks for joining us. We will see you next time.